Hey everyone, Hex here. Today I'm having some fun with a pile of defenders and seeing if I can get it to work in a constructed environment with some more older familiar cards. So time to time I like to try out decks around different tribes and mechanics introduced or reintroduced in new sets, and today I'm using a bunch of Dominaria defenders, typically pretty good in draft form, but throwing in some older cards to beef it up in a constructed format. So we have a few ways to win, even though defenders can't typically attack. Firstly, the build around card, Wingmantle Chaplain, a 4-drop 0/3 defender that says when Wingmantle Chaplain enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 bird with flying for each creature you control with defender, and whenever another creature with defender enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 bird. Now on the face of it, this sounds pretty average, but as most of our cards are defenders, this can get out of hand pretty quickly. Another way to win will be with Walking Bulwark, a super cheap 1-drop, which is a 0/3 defender that for 2 says until end of turn, target creature with defender gains haste and can attack as though it didn't have defender, and it assigns damage through its toughness. Activate as a sorcery. This is a pretty decent card to get in early damage from itself or other creatures. The creature you may want to target is our other win con, Faithbound Judge, a 4/4 flying vigilant defender for just 3 mana. On its own, this creature is a great target for Bulwark, but there's way more text to this card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Faithbound Judge has 2 or fewer judgment counters on it, put a judgment counter on it. When it has 3 or more, it can attack as though it didn't have defender. Basically, for 3 turns, this can't attack, and then it can. And it flies, and it has vigilance. But wait, there's more. If it dies, you can cast it for its disturb cost, and then it becomes Sinner's Judgment, a curse to attach to your opponent that basically says for 3 turns add a Sinner counter. When it has 3 counters on it, that player loses the game. I'd be surprised if it ever gets to that point, but it's technically a third way to win this game. The card though is mainly to play with the Bulwark. Another defender we can use to eventually attack is Concealing Curtains, our 1-drop 0/4 defender that for 3 mana transforms into Revealing Eye, gets to discard a non-land card from opponent's hand, and it becomes a 3/4 with Menace and without defender, so it's a sweet card to get down early. To go along with our defenders is Blight Pile, a 3/3 for 2 with defender that says for 3 mana and tap, each opponent loses X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with defender. Other defenders we have are Larder Zombies, a 1/3 with defender which says tap 3 untapped creatures you control. Look at the top card of your library, you may put it into your graveyard. When you have multiple creatures with Chaplain, you can sometimes look 4 or 5 deep to find the top deck that you really want. The other defender is Shield-Wall Sentinel, a 4-drop 1/3 that says when it ETBs, you can tutor for another creature with defender to put into your hand. Typically, you want to look for another copy of it until you've run out, and then you look for a Chaplain or a Blight Pile to close out the game. Other cards include Fading Hope for some cheap interaction, Fateful Absence as some removal for creatures and planeswalkers, and Make Disappear. The casualty is great with our birds, but some of our creatures have 0 power, so watch out for not being able to use casualty on them. Lastly, we need some card draw. Originally I had Silver Scrutiny, but the double blue meant it tricky to cast, so I went with a favourite of mine in Siphon Insight. It's spotlight what the opponent has, but you get to flash it back, and it's fun playing with your opponent's cards, especially if there's cards without defender that we can use to attack them with. So 24 lands make up the rest of the deck. My goal here was to use cards that won't normally get a chance to be played in a more competitive deck, and just to have a little more fun with this. Anyway, feel free to subscribe for future videos, and let's see how we get on playing with my defender deck. Alright, on the draw, with a decent hand actually. Mana's a tiny little bit off, as I'd like to get this Concealing Curtains down first turn, but we have some turn 1 plays with the Larder Zombie anyway. Larder Zombie really comes into itself later in the game when we get multiple creatures on the battlefield, but I think it's a pretty decent card. Decent defender. Decent inclusion in this deck, as our opponent is on a mono-red deck, it seems, with Kessig Flamebreaker and a Kamano. Get to play 2 zombies here, so classic case of they're going to struggle to get through this. And yeah, we do have Fading Hope open here. We'll decide what to bounce when the opponent decides what to do themselves. Don't really want to bounce the Etching. Chandra is an annoying card, so we could have saved 1 damage there had we bounced the creature before they got a chance to play Chandra. However, that's not a problem. And no good attacks here for our opponent. The 1 power of these zombies is kind of relevant, I think. Much better than 0 power defenders, but Chandra's able to uptick it. Now, we don't have any main clean ways of dealing with Chandra except for a couple of Fateful Absences. So we will drop our Concealing Curtains here, as this has Menace, and at least we can start attacking Chandra. Opponent with Defiler here, the red version, but that's an easy counter spell. So relatively slow start for this red deck, so maybe it's more of a... It's not quite as aggressive as some of the better ones, but here comes a Phoenix Chick. Now that's going to fly. We do have flying blockers with the Chaplain in our hand. We'll be looking for a land drop, and this shows just the benefit of having these Larder Zombies, as we find a Blight Pile on the top of our deck. Now that is a decent card. However, I am looking for a land here. There we go. So now we have the option of holding open Make Disappear, of activating our Curtains, or playing our Chaplain. Chose to activate the Curtains, see what the opponent has in their hand, and attacking the Chandra with the Menace. So slowly dealing with Chandra here, who can go back to 3 loyalty now. Opponent with the Flame Breaker again. And an Adversary. So starting to get some damage here from the red deck, as Chick attacks, and we can't block that. So tap land there. Obviously we attacked with our Revealing Eye last turn, so we weren't able to use our Larder Zombie, but we are able to play our Wingmantle Chaplain here and grab some birds. So now every defender we play is going to create birds. So I'm fine with attacking with the Revealing Eye here to at least try and deal with a creature on the board. Yeah, so we're going to lose our creature anyway, so have to pick which one I want to kill the most, and I think the Flame Breather over the course of the game is going to do us the most damage. So we opt to take that out. Now this Chandra is the main threat on the board at the moment. We do have a way to take it out, but it's going to take a few turns to do that. And opponent gets the Defiler of Instinct onto the battlefield. So Phoenix Chick can't block. So it might as well attack. So I can certainly kill one of these chicks, or this chick now, but I'm really interested in killing the Chandra. So we get to look at the top of our deck twice now. And that was a Make Disappear and a land. We need some action here, as we find a Fading Hope, which is a pretty decent card, I think, in this particular deck. So 3 birds attacking Chandra. The Defiler is a great way for our opponents here to start picking off our birds, so we have the combo of being able to put it back in their hand and counter it next turn if they wish to replay it. So Chandra's dead on board. Finally. As opponent ups it and creates a mana, plays Reckless Impulse. And they find a Jaya on top. So we're pretty much going to counter whatever they do here, whatever they decide to pick. And it is the Jaya before they lose it. And we can counter that. I think 2 Planeswalkers would be hard enough for us to... well, 1 Planeswalker is hard enough for us to handle. 2 Planeswalkers would be a bit of a nightmare. So this chick is doing a little bit of damage here, 1 per turn, pecking us away. Okay, we get to look at the top of our decks, just another land, and we draw another land. So finally we can deal with this Chandra now. And we're going to hold back a bird to block the Phoenix chick. Opponent will be able to replay it from their graveyard if they want to start attacking with other creatures. And opponent has another Chandra in their hand. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. But we've already dealt with one. I'm sure we can finally deal with this other one. And yeah, opponent gets the Defiler down. So pretty decent board here. If we kill the chick, then they just attack with their 3 creatures next turn and are able to play the chick anyway from the graveyard. So our defenders are doing a pretty good job here of blocking these 2/2s. If they attack, I'm just going to double block with the Larder Zombie. I'm also not going to block the Phoenix chick if they attack. I need as many birds as possible to chop down this other Chandra that they've played. Okay, so down to 9 life. Pretty much solely being pecked to death by the Phoenix chick. Larder Zombie finds a Siphon Insight off the top of our deck. Okay, so we get to play that, and yeah, Rending Flame on our opponent's top deck there means we can do 5 damage to a target creature. We can get rid of the Defiler. I do like Siphon Insight, and we needed some kind of card draw in this deck, and I feel like it's a fun card to play with. The double blue of the Silver Scrutiny was causing me a problem in a previous sort of game I had, so I decided I'd go with a card that I don't get a chance to play with often. But if we do find a creature off our opponent's deck as well, we get to play that, and that won't have Defender, so we can attack with it ourselves, which is nice. But yeah, this card can definitely be switched out for any other kind of card draw. I mean, Silver Scrutiny would be good in this particular instance with the land we have, but anyway, this is where we are. So we get to flash it back as well next turn, so we get to have another look on our top of our opponent's deck. So opponent channels their Sokenzan, creates some more 1/1s. Alright, so I think they're starting to get a little bit aggressive here. Now, I'm going to take a little bit extra damage. I think if they've been holding that card, they need to have played it a while back, because I think this is the way that they're going to win. We get to block the 1/1s and the adversary here. So we just take 3 damage. So our clock is ticking down, but if we find some defenders, at least we get to create some more birds. Been a little bit unlucky with our top decks, but so we go down to 5. And yeah, the birds can finish off Chandra, and again we get to look at the top of our deck. So I think these Larder Zombies have definitely kept us in the game here. Another land. Glad I won't be drawing that, but we do draw another land anyway. So Siphon Insight here to see what the opponent has that we can use, and a Fable is brilliant. Okay, so get to play a Fable, create a token here, and deal with this Chandra at last. Again, we'll hold back a bird to kill the Phoenix chick. We're actually only on 5 life, so got to be careful of any hasty threat here from our opponent. A Raiju or a Shivan Devastator can go over us, or just attack us to our face with the counters on the Raiju. And it's a Kessig Flame Breather, so card we probably need to deal with. We've only got 5 life, and let's see what they do with this chick. It can't block, so it may as well attack. And finally get to kill the chick here. It's taken a while. I think that's been around since the very beginning of the game. Now, luckily, Fable is going to allow us to loot away this swamp we've got in our hand that we've been holding. Okay, Walking Bulwark It is a defender, so it will create another bird, so I think playing that now is better than looking for something else. Ooh, and a Faithbound Judge. Okay, so hopefully we've managed to stabilize a little bit here. Faithbound Judge is a alternate win condition for our deck, but mainly it's a 4/4 flyer. So we can block. I mean, I missed 4 damage here. We could have activated the Bulwark and given our Judge haste there. I think I've just realized now. That would have... It also has Vigilance, so that would have been 4 extra damage to our opponent. Yeah, I'm just checking now. I think I didn't realize it necessarily gave haste. Or I forgot it gave haste, so definitely missed 4 damage there, but that's the combo that we're trying to use. Okay, opponent with Lightning Strike to our face, and then their Breather as well is going to do an extra damage. So we're down to 1. We're an opponent top deck away from dying. So how much damage can we do this turn? That's the main thing. We get to tap away at our board here to see if we can find some gas on the top. Wingmantle Chaplain is a great card here. So the Chaplain can come down and create a load more birds. So we can't win the game on this particular turn, but we can definitely put ourselves in the position where we can win next turn. So we're at the mercy of an opponent's top deck here. We can attack with the 4 birds, and again, I missed the damage here off the Faithbound Judge. But I think I learned after this game about that particular interaction. So that's 8 damage missed, but it's not going to cause too much problem. The opponent would still not be dead. Shield-Wall Sentinel on the top. Now, that would normally be a good card here, but I think I'm looking for some interaction instead. We definitely have Lethal on board, so there's no point in having that. Let's just see if we can find something else. Just an island. Not really sure what I'm looking for here. We have enough birds to win the game. And Blight Pile would be another way to win anyway. And we get to attack down our opponent here for lethal. There we go. Use the Bulwark to allow the Judge to attack and hit the opponent for 15, I think. And yeah, opponent scoops it up and we win on 1 life. So that little chicken nugget did a lot of damage to us throughout that game. But we managed to see it through, even though we misplayed the Faithbound Judge a couple of times. But we live and learn. Anyway, next game, and we get to play our curtains here on turn 1. One of our better first drops. Opponent with a Bulwark themselves. All right, so a mirror match. See how this goes. So we get to play our Blight Pile. We know what the opponent's going to be playing. And yeah, another Bulwark. That's pretty good. So opponent on Esper as well. Our hand, I mean, it's not the greatest. We do have a play here with the curtains. Or we can activate our Blight Pile. Or we can hold up Insight or make disappear. We've got quite a few options here. Curtains is a sorcery. So let's do our Blight Pile and hit our opponent for 2 damage. And play a Bulwark. Another defender, and so by activating the curtains, the Revealing Eye now is not a defender, so the trigger of Blight Pile is going to be lessened because of that. We do get to look in their hand. And thank goodness we did, because we get to discard their Chaplain. Shield-Wall Sentinel for our opponents. And they get to search up another card. So whereas we've gone pretty much full defenders in our deck, we can see the opponent's got Liasa in their hand, so that they're not quite as defendery as we are. But another Blight Pile here, so we can definitely get some pressure going with these. And opponent gets to play their Liasa, and thank goodness we'll have Make Despair in our hand, because that is a card I'm not sure we can necessarily easily deal with. And yeah, we get to play our island we just drew, and just deciding whether to activate the Blight Pile or throw down our Chaplain. So I attack with the Blight Pile and the Revealing Eye, holding open 3 mana, and then we can activate the Blight Pile in the opponent's end step, or hold open Siphon Insight. Opponent with their own Chaplain. That's fine. Opponent is down to 9 lives though. 9 lives. 9 life. So we hopefully can see this game out pretty quickly, as our Blight Pile does 3 damage. Opponent is going to Infernal Grasp in response and take 2 damage themselves, so they're now down to 5. We have 2 damage on board, so we can play our Chaplain here, get some birds going. And no attacks just yet. Opponent is going to get busy with some birds. I mean, we're on 20 life, so we can take that down to 16. And yep, touch the Spirit Realm will flicker their Chaplain to create some more birds. And we draw another Blight Pile. So we have 3 damage on board, 4 damage now if we activate our Blight Pile. And I think we're just going to slowly see if we can kill them that way. Most they can do on board at the moment is 8 damage if we don't block any of their birds. And they die to our Blight Piles. Okay, so they have Rite of Oblivion to exile 1, and presumably they're just going to exile the other one as well. There it goes. So opponent doesn't really have any good attacks there, as we'll just take the damage and then attack back. And we don't have any really decent attacks ourselves. Everything can be blocked. Siphon Insight here. Let's have a look in our opponent's hand, and it's a Blight Pile and a Pilgrim. Decent cards. The Blight Pile is better for our deck, I think. So we can play that. Gives us another body and another way to win the game next turn. And yeah, we can just sit tight and see if the opponent can beat us this turn. They need to remove the Blight Pile. And it's Takenuma. And they mill over 3 lands. And return the Chaplain to their hand, and they get to play that. And yeah, that's not going to do it. Blight Pile is going to see out the game. So a win against the mirror match, even though our deck was solely defenders and they had some pretty decent other cards as well. But we take those. On to the next one. Okay, on the play, and yeah, a fine hand. Some early interaction. Blight Pile is a decent card as well. And the Shield-Wall Sentinel will tutor up some more creatures. Opponent with a mountain. And yeah, we get to play either Blight Pile, Bulwark, or hold open Fading Hope. And we play the Bulwark. So an 0-3, pretty good at stopping any hasty creatures coming through, and the opponent is on Boros, it seems, so I'm kind of glad I played the Bulwark. So an adversary is blocked here, and it's just a bed for our opponent. So definitely on some kind of Boros aggro deck. Expect to see some counters flowing around with the Raiju and the Stormseeker. Baird has the ability that at your end step, if you own a creature, or if you control a creature with a different power to its normal power, you create a soldier. So we got to play a Bulwark and a Blight Pile, an opponent with a Cavalier. Wonder if they attack, and they do. Okay, well, we'll block that now before that becomes much more of a problem. Blight Pile is one of our better cards, but having the 3 power and a defender is pretty good against a Cavalier. Okay, so we get to play our Sentinel here, and yeah, we're just going to chain Sentinels into Sentinels into Sentinels until we've run out, and then throw down one of the other creatures depending on what the board state is. So a Spirited Companion for our opponent, they get to draw a card, and Kamano. So not the fastest start for our opponent. Glad we blocked the Cavalier though. And yeah, this is going to be what we're doing now, just playing Sentinels after Sentinel. Then we can look for a Chaplain or a Faithbound Judge, which we can give haste. So Fading Hope as well in our hand is going to be nice for anything that we're going to struggle to deal with. Opponent with Selfless Samurai. And comes out with an extra counter, and yeah, we'll just keep the tempo going and bounce the Samurai back to their hands. Land on the top, not so good. And that was a second Kamano for our opponent, so they're going to have a nice little board in a couple of turns. We draw a Fateful Absence, which is pretty nice. And we're going to keep chaining these Sentinels together. So just as a 1-3, they're not particularly great. Although that 1 power is okay when you've got multiples on the board. Opponent can't really attack at all, as we can just start blocking everything. And yeah, here comes down the Etching. Opponent finds their 4th mana drop and a Stormseeker. So Fateful Absence is pretty nice in this particular instance, and we'll kill that before it goes to combat. And we've managed to keep the opponent off of activating Baird here. And yeah, here comes the Sentinel. So we've got all 4 on the board now, so we have to decide which card we're going to take, and we're just going to take the Chaplain. We need to close out this game as sooner rather than later, and going over the top of the opponent is probably the best way to do that. So we're going to create 7 birds when we play this next turn. Still no decent attacks here for our opponent. They correct their clue. They can see our hand, so they know what's coming, and they scoop it up. We were going to beat them in 3 turns probably off the top of our deck. And we can move on to this next game, where we get to go second. So our hand is... It's okay. I think if we mulligan, we're not going to get too much better, but we can certainly get a lot worse. As a mech hanger for our opponent, so maybe up against a vehicle deck here. Haven't seen one of these for a while. And a Bank Buster. Okay, so see how this goes. There's going to be a lot going on here, so we get to play one of our cheaper defenders here. We get to play our Blight Pile. And opponent decides to draw. Maybe missing a land drop. And they play their Plaza. Yep. Play our our Larder Zombie. So a slow start for us and a slow start for the opponent. Although Bankbuster's a pretty good card, we have nothing really we can deal with that with. And the Reality Chip, sure. And Curtains is a nice card here. So activating this now would mean that we have one less defender on the board, and I elect to pass the turn and use Blight Pile instead, as Curtains may have taken that Tezzeret there, but with Bankbuster I was thinking that they're just going to keep drawing anyway, so maybe it's not worth it as yet. And Tezzeret gets to plus its loyalty. Discard 2 unless you discard an artifact, which they discard one of their vehicles. So guessing there's going to be a Grease Fang in the future, as we get to activate our Blight Pile and hit our opponent for 3. So Judge is a nice card to play here as a decent blocker, and hopefully we can start getting some counters on this card, and then we can start attacking. We could have activated our Curtains that turn and hit the Tezzeret, but I'm not too concerned about that card at the particular moment. But we'll see what the opponent does. Okay, so there's Grease Fang. It's going to be a bit annoying. We do have some sort of pseudo removal in our hands with our Touch the Spirit Realm. Ideally, I'd like to use that with our Chaplain to flicker our Chaplain and create more birds. But we may have to just use it on Grease Fang here, which is fine. And yeah, this brings back their vehicle. Oh, I guess we might as well play our Siphon Insight. Doesn't matter whether we play it now or later. An opponent has a land or Sten, so never played with this card before. Gets to reduce the cost of a card type that isn't land or creature, and Surge Hacker Mech does come down, and they're able to take out our Blight Pile. And yep, Larder Zombie here can just tap and land on the top. Always want to put the land in the graveyard because there's a likelihood of us drawing another one anyway, so not really that bothered if we find a land on our next turn. And they decide to activate their Bankbuster instead of attacking, which is fine. I think their vehicle has Menace, so they could have got in there. They play their own Sten. And yeah, they'll name Artifact, I would presume. There we go. So decent start for our opponent. Definitely going to have to try and go over the top of them if we can. Opponent has to discard now. Discard a island, which is interesting. And a Sentinel for us. But we really need to deal with this Grease Fang, unfortunately. Otherwise, it's going to start to take over, keep bringing back the vehicle and keep knocking out our creatures. So less than ideal play as we imprison their Grease Fang. And just play our Sten here. It doesn't really matter what we name, we haven't really got anything. I think we've got some instants and enchantments in our deck. Just checking the deck list as we speak. Yeah, and just in case we find a counter spell. Pass our turn. So the Faithbound Judge is slowly ticking up its counters here. Tezzeret is going to ultimate now, so, or they can ultimate it if they want to. meaning that whenever they tap an artifact, they get to draw a card, which is pretty good for them. They get to play a Voldalian Desecrator here. So I'm not too concerned about the immediate threats right now. Looking forward to getting this Chaplain down and we can start doing some damage to them. Not sure if an opponent has any way they can deal with this Touch the Spirit Realm at the moment. And it's another Surge Hacker mech. And that's going to deal some damage equal to twice the number of vehicles you control to target creature or opponent. They get to deal with Sten, which I'm not sure if they needed to deal with, but it's their own card, so of course you want to make sure your opponent doesn't have that. And yeah, just go through to end step. We get to tap our creatures, look at the top of our deck again. So value here from our Larder Zombie. And another Faithbound Judge. I mean, a 4/4 flying Vigilant is pretty good. So we have options now. But I think it's time to get down the Chaplain here. Start doing some damage to our opponent. So this is going to create 4 birds. So we can block, we can attack now. We just pass our turn. So this is a real grindy game here. And yeah, opponent's just going to cycle their tower. Look for some gas. And it's Khan, okay. Again, I'm not too worried about Khan. It's not the greatest of the Planeswalkers at the moment. Something we can deal with over the course of a few turns with our flying creatures, if we want. But what we want to be looking at now is just closing this game out as quick as possible. We've still got 20 life, opponent's still on 17, so they get to crew here. And yeah, that's gonna attack us, I guess. And I guess they draw a card through the emblem that they've got. So we could kill this now with the Judge and the birds, but it's 5 damage, and I want to have as many attacking creatures as possible soon. And we get to use our Larder Zombie again. A real sort of hidden gem in this deck, I think. And another Chaplain is fantastic. So our Judge gets 3 counters and that can attack now. And yeah, we get to play our other Chaplain here. Create a load more birds. So we have lethal over the course of the next couple of turns. So we may as well ignore Khan. It's not going to be doing anything in the immediate future, and we can go straight to the opponent's face, attack them for 8. Next turn we have 14 damage in the air. So this game's turned around pretty quickly. And yeah, they're going to have to deal with our board or kill us now. They do have a lot of mana. And it's another Bankbuster, okay. Using their Power Stone, so nice little combo there with their emblem. I'd be surprised if they haven't got a way to deal with all these flyers. Okay, so they minus on their Khan here, and interesting to see how much mana they want to sink into this. So they're sinking 2 into that, so they must have a decent hand. All right, it's another Grease Fang. and Fleeting Spirit. And yeah, they get to discard a another vehicle, but I don't think we're under too much pressure here. We can block for days. We've got a lot of ways to get out of this. Surge Hacker Mech is going to kill our Judge. And before it does that, we'll tap it just to get some value from it. And tap our birds, we're not blocking with them. So we've still got 10 damage in the air. So then you just take out at least 2 birds. And yeah, it's going to get busy. But we're still on 15 life, so I really don't feel any threats, to be honest. And they are going to be attacking here for 10. So even if we were to take it, we're not dead. But no point taking the risk. We can cash in our defenders here. And fingers crossed they have no way to deal with any of these flyers. Top of our deck is a Fading Hope, and we'll definitely keep that. So this is looking good. It's been a real grindy game. It's really been grindy playing with this deck, to be honest. Defenders are good at, I guess, good at defending, but not so good at attacking here. But I think we managed to see this game through, and we'll just play out a creature here, Faithbound Judge, show the opponent that we have something else in our hand. Create another bird. So I'm wary of flyers, so just double checking to make sure that there's nothing that's going to cause me a problem if I attack with 10 birds. And opponent takes it all, and that was a tough game. I think without the chaplain there we definitely would have lost, but we managed to see it through eventually, which was nice, and move on to the next one. Alright, next game here, and a very good opening hand here. See if this game can be a bit quicker than our last couple. Really grindy playing with decks that don't necessarily have the greatest cards available in Standard at the moment. And a nice little 1-2 curve here, the Larder Zombie into our Blight Pile. Golgari for our opponent. Could be anything. So we're missing a 3-drop, so nice that we have our tap land to play next turn as they play their Stronghold Arena, and Concealing Curtains was a nice draw for us. So obviously if we weren't playing defenders we could be doing a bit of damage here. But Tatsunari for our opponent. Alright, so a enchantment based deck. So we're going to get hit by some frogs, I guess, in this game. And Tatsunari gets to make them unblockable. Except for if the creature blocking has reach or flying. So it's going to be imperative we get some birds down as soon as possible. And guess we can use our mana here to bounce their Tatsunari. And untap lands is nice, so we can get our Sentinel here and search for our other Sentinel. This is a great card in this deck. I think it really pulls this deck together. It gives you options. If the opponent's played any drafting, they know that this... I'm going to be looking for some kind of haymaker in a bit. Definitely holding the curtains as a defender at the second, as no need to attack with it just now. We're going to play all these Sentinels and then we're just going to throw down the Chaplain and win in the air. So Akiba for our opponent. Tap land on the top of our deck. Not very exciting. We're going to be playing our Sentinel next turn anyway. So mana isn't really something we really need. Down to the last Sentinel in our deck here. So my concern here is that they have some shenanigans with these frogs, or this frog, and they can make it unblockable and get through for some damage. The flyers would be nice to block with, but I can't see us taking 18 damage this particular turn. Opponent would need to chain together a lot of enchantments, and they would need to pump up their toad or their frog. Not sure if it's a toad or a frog. And Blight Pile is another way for us to take out any remaining life the opponent has, although every time they do play an enchantment they do gain some life. So here comes a life of Tashiro, and they are going to target their frog. So it's a 5/5 now, and opponent just attacks. So Tatsunari could have made it unblockable. Don't really want to lose any of our creatures. We certainly could triple block to kill this thing, but they just get another frog back next turn. Stronghold Arena triggers, and they get to lose a life and put Generous Visitor in their hand. So it's nice to play against an enchantment deck that isn't white and green. And yeah, use our zombie here to look at the top of our deck. Another land, not very interesting. We draw a land anyway, which is fine. So a couple of options here. We can look in their hand, we can get down the Sentinel, and then find one of our better creatures. And that's what I opt to do. Alright, so opponent is getting priority now, so they've definitely got something in their hand. Reluctant necessarily to play this Chaplain or to find a Chaplain, as the opponent could kill it in response to it entering the battlefield, and I really want the Chaplain to survive a few turns. Alright, so Infernal Grasp on our zombie, whatever. I think there's better targets that they could have used there, but the zombie is giving us some kind of advantage there by looking at the top of our deck. I think Blight Pile is the threat on the board that's going to cause the most problems if it sticks around. But anyway, opponent gets in with their frog token again. 5/5, and yeah, we can just take that. Stronghold Arena activates, and just a land off the top for the opponent. And Touch the Spirit Realm is nice. So we get to play our Wingmantle Chaplain here. Create 6 birds. And and Infernal Grasp from our opponent. But here's our combo. We get to channel Touch the Spirit Realm. And before Infernal Grasp resolves on the stack, we get to flicker our creature. So we're going to gain 5 birds from the initial enter the battlefield, and then another 6 birds on top of that as it hits the battlefield for the second time this turn. So opponent kind of did us a bit of a favour by targeting our chaplain there. We have 11 birds now, so that's going to see out the game pretty quickly. We can also block the frog, as it can be blocked by creatures with flying. So this game's turned around pretty sharp here. The Touch the Spirit Realm was a great top deck for us. They attack with the 3/3 and the 2/2 with Menace. And yeah, they make the Toad unblockable, except for creatures with flying, and we get to snap off a easy block on the Nezumi Road Captain as well. So although we lose a bird, I was concerned about pump spells and Gloom Shrieper for our opponent, and that's the reason they attacked with the enchantment there. They get to get it back to their hand with the Gloom Shrieker. And they can't play it this turn because they only have blue or green mana open. Just a swamp for us. So we have 10 damage on board, plus another 6 damage from our Blight Pile. Deciding whether to play the Sentinel, anything to search for that might help us close out the game this turn. I don't think there is. Also need to be aware of dying next turn if we go too crazy with our birds. At least the Sentinel's going to create another one that we can block with next turn. And hopefully for the Blight Pile here, maybe I could have found a Chaplain there to play. A Faithbound Judge, which would have been also another way to block our opponent's attacks. But attack with 8 birds here. And at the end of the day, I want to hold mana open for the Blight Pile. And the second one in our hand is another way that we can close out the game if the opponent deals with our current Blight Pile. So as long as we don't die, we're in a decent shape. We will have lethal next turn. And it's an Akiba Reckoner raid. Drains us, so they do gain an extra life through that. So these have been real grindy games. I mean, I don't remember the last time I've played 5 games in an hour. But it's been nice to play with something different, actually, than just playing the mono black decks or Rakdos decks. Takes me back to when I first started playing Magic on Arena. And Kaito for our opponent. Nice card, a bit late though, so maybe they do have some removal in their deck that they have been searching for. I'm guessing they probably have a Meathook Massacre somewhere, as it's an enchantment and it would work pretty nice. So a Meathook would have been nice for them for 1. But we've managed to dodge those so far, and yeah, opponent scoops it out. They see that we've got lethal on board, and yeah, another victory for the defenders. So all in all, this deck was pretty fun to play with. Very, very grindy games, long games as well, but managed to find a way to victory in them. There was a couple more I couldn't show, as would be here for a couple of hours. One was a defeat actually against an Orzhov mid-range deck, and then I had another game where I beat a mono red deck, but again it just took ages and ages until we managed to get down our Chaplain. So after that first game where we missed 8 damage from the Faithbound Judge and Walking Bulwark combo, I feel like we did pretty well. We managed to maximize most of our plays in our games, and the Shield-Wall Sentinel was a really good card to tutor up game winning threats. But I've got to say, Larder Zombie in these games has been fantastic. Just 2 copies in the deck, we managed to draw them most times, and filtering the top of our deck really helped us hit our win conditions. The deck won't make it competitively, but my goal was to have some fun games of Magic, and I think I managed to do that. I think sometimes I get too caught up in winning with all the best cards, so it was a nice break to play a little more casual today. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you again very soon.